healthcare student at George Washington. And I'm very excited for our session today, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, good day, everybody. My name is Nathaniel Porter. I'm in the professional MBA program here. And this is our session, Modified and Changing Nature of Business. This is really within the greater context of a course that we've been doing titled Creativity and Innovation, which is really aiming to explore these ideas of creativity and innovation, what they mean, creating our own definitions, if you will, and then really trying to understand how it applies to where we are today. And I think, as many have already mentioned, the pandemic is a big deal in this particular season of life. And so our teams together, who we'll introduce shortly, we're really kind of fascinated with this idea of how creativity and innovation are playing such a big role during the pandemic and trying to create value in different ways, given the fact that most businesses are operating remotely and they've honestly just been disrupted. And so organizations, much like individuals today, are mostly in a state of reflection right now. And so we're really trying to understand how we can convert from a state of being reflective to a state where we're acting in more meaningful ways and in different ways. So I'll just go ahead and introduce my team. So if you could go to the next slide. So the team that I'm a part of is called the Phoenix Effect and the Changing Nature of Business, kind of what we've discussed. But the idea here is that businesses as we've known them are basically going extinct. You see it across the board based on different industries. Certain industries are collapsing, falling, if you will, and others are booming. And the ones that are booming are centered around these ideas of connecting one another, the infrastructure and the IT that makes it all happen. So our team members are Celine, myself, Yanru, Yifan, and you. And then Mary's team is on the next slide.
Okay, so my team 12 is coping with and prospering under disruption, insights for success. We really wanted to focus on innovative business models, thinking outside the box and even beyond the box, really being creative and adapting, obviously, in this environment. And of course, without the dedication of hard work of my team here, we put this together. So Gina, Jin, Yao Ming, and Zhao Meng.
So I'm really excited this morning. We're going to go to the next slide, but without further ado, we're actually going to go ahead and dive in. So this is our first speaker will be Quentin Harris, a great friend of mine. The word that first comes to mind is griot. And if you're unfamiliar with the context of that word, it's really about storytelling and really putting ideas together in meaningful ways. So first, I see Quentin as a storyteller, but he has extensive experience in the tech startup world from a creative perspective. So really focusing on delivering creative content, really transforming the definitions of experience and branding and what they mean in today's society. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Quentin and allow him to share what he'd like to for the next few minutes, and then we'll go into some question and answers for him.
Thank you so much, Nathan. That was a wonderful introduction. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Okay, so desktop one.
You have to unshare, Nathan. Yeah.
Awesome. Can everyone see my messy desktop? Ooh.
He's a true creative.
Oh my goodness, you should see my in real life desk. So hi everyone, my name is Quentin Harris. I am a designer, creative director, photographer, a lot of different things. But one of the things that I truly love and am truly passionate about is the intersection between brand, identity, and inclusion. And those different concepts I've been exploring in my 10+ year career. I actually started as a mechanical engineer in school. I did a little bit of architecture as well, but found a passion and love for advertising, marketing, experience design, and actually pivoted right after school. And I've been working in both the advertising and marketing industry as well as the technology startup industry. And so today I'm going to talk about a few concepts that I've been playing with in terms of like what's at the foundation of my practice, my current practice. I'm a consultant at Publicis Sapient, focusing on experience design with a number of clients, as well as working as a global lead within experience design. And so one of the things that we talk about within experience is how brand, particularly when we talk about brand identity, the soul of a company or a venture, it's really connected to the experience that that brand creates for its customers. And so we have a mantra that says your brand is only as good as your last interaction. And what we define brand is kind of the sum total or the integral, because I'm a nerd, of the experiences that you have with your customers over a span of time. And what we know historically about brands, whether they were Coca-Cola, Samsung, these brands that have been staples within our society, they built trust and they built brand experiences with their customers over a large amount of time. But what we see with technology, we see that we're able to interact with our customers more often and actually at a speed that is kind of unprecedented. I always say that wrong. What we're seeing is the number of interactions that you can have with a brand closes or shortens or that window of interactivity shortens considerably. And so you are either at a point where you have really great experiences with your brand, or you can have really negative impact on people's perception of your brand. And it's very easy today to kind of go either way. And so also one of the things that we talk about is the intersectionality of what you say about your brand and what you build in service to your customers for your brand. And so the ideas around marketing and product, we call it marketing and product, or, the narrative around your brand versus the actual functional component or service, they're interlocked with each other. And so there's this natural connection between what you say and what you do. And we think of it as an infinite loop that's constantly powered by this intersection. And marketing in itself as a concept, or what you say about your brand, actually it runs at a faster rate as to the product or service that you're actually creating on behalf of your brand. And so these things are linked together. And what I focus on is not just the linkage of these two concepts or these two parts of the brand, but like where within the brand can you experience what I call inclusion or friction, right? And so the idea is anytime we talk about inclusive design or inclusive thinking, as it relates to brand, we're looking at moments or opportunities within the brand experience where customers or even potential customers can feel excluded or left out of the conversation that the brand is having with the market. Particularly when we're looking at large brands, like, the Procter and Gambles of the world, like large automotive companies of the world. We're looking for areas within their marketing experience, as well as their product experience, their core product experience, to see where there's opportunities for more inclusive thinking, more inclusive design. Particularly in the world right now, we're focused more on cultural inclusion, right? So really making sure that there's representation to different types of experiences that can be had within the brand. And so I focus a lot on identifying areas where customers or potential customers could feel excluded, whether it's in the way we talk about brands or in the way that the products are experienced. Do y'all see this like OSA script? Oh Lord, I don't know how to wait. Hold on. No, I don't want to use my password. Cool. All right. Sorry. Snap back in. And so when we talk about inclusion, we often have to talk about cycles of exclusion. So, and identifying where exclusion happens within brands, There are a series of questions that you can ask. Oh, excuse me. There's a series of questions that you can ask to really pinpoint where you're experiencing friction or you're experiencing inclusion and in the design process. Kat Holmes, who I'm a big fan of, out of the Silicon Valley. She wrote a book on how mismatched interactions or mismatched design shapes how we interact with the world. And so questions like why we make, what we make, who makes it, these are all questions that can lead to an understanding of what causes exclusion within a brand and how we can move towards a more inclusive type of brand experience. And so to me, there's a huge upside to thinking about inclusion within a brand or within this world that we currently live in as it relates to brands being more inclusive, more culturally relevant. And a lot of it is just pure business, the market upside. So like there are niche, what folks have defined as niche segments within the market, which is completely untrue. But there are opportunities within the market to really take advantage of really building services or products for groups that have historically been excluded within the market. So that could be people who are differently able, women. It could be, certain subsets or populations, but really looking at what is the market opportunity and then what are the creative and technological solutions that we can build for these markets. And then the last thing I'd say is, at my company, I'm defining a new practice, what I call functional inclusivity. And really what that means is how do we design digital experiences and product features that grant specific groups of people, because most of my inclusion work is about demographic, specific groups of people, new ways to participate in spaces that they've been previously excluded in, right? And so I'm talking about marginalized people, I'm talking about differently able people, I'm talking about people who traditionally don't have access to certain services or access to ability to live in ways that they can generate wealth or generate some form of wellness within their lives. So with that being said, that's my presentation, or that is my thesis to you all. Turn it back over to our panelists.
Great, thanks so much. Mary, I think if you can go ahead and pull up the presentation. Quentin, we'll actually go ahead and ask just a couple of questions here. We expect our second speaker to be here momentarily. You were speaking about how, just to kind of take it back just a second. So you're actually in the creative industry and you're talking about these clients or these concepts of more inclusive design. But I think that first starts with, actually generating those ideas and refining them with a team of people or with a broader audience. How are you actually, I would say, stimulating that creativity in this kind of environment?
Yeah, and when you say this kind of environment, are you thinking about COVID? Are you thinking about within the workplace?
Yeah, I guess to be more specific, yeah, somewhere within the workplace. I guess I'm kind of wondering what a typical brainstorm looks like for you these days, because I kind of don't imagine that it's the same as walking into an office and whiteboarding with a dozen people or so and throwing ideas on a wall. But
Yeah,
interested
no,
to hear your thoughts.
it's really interesting because nowadays there is a lot of opportunity for solitude and contemplation. But I think when it comes to my process, so my team specifically is a global team. So I have folks that I'm working with in New York, London, Berlin, and we meet once a week, typically to discuss some of the ideas that we have for some of the global initiatives that we want to develop for our experience design capability. My process looks like, I've been trying to be really intentional about living day to day and observing and being really sensitive to the environment that I exist in, my place within that environment, and then also reading and making sure that I'm like kind of consuming what I would consider creative materials or highly reflective, highly poignant materials that are talking about the subject matters that I care about at the moment. Right now is inclusivity. So I'm reading a lot of books on, inclusive design, or I'm reading books on, anti-racism. And I'm thinking a lot about what does it mean to be a marginalized person within the context of where we live, but also what does that mean in context to the world? And then, I put together a list of ideas or concepts that I want to talk about, and I enter into that collaborative space with my global team, and we have discussions. We whiteboard. We put all our ideas on the board. And when I say whiteboard, we're literally virtually whiteboarding with tools like Miro or Miro, which there's the same tool. That's weird. And we're prioritizing based on that list, right? So we're looking at what are the compelling, not just the compelling ideas, but what are the business opportunities within those ideas? And we start to prioritize that list and we roadmap. So, and that's just for global initiatives. If I'm talking about it in context to my clients, more than often, I'm working on existing client work that was contracted and scoped. And so, if I see opportunities within the scope of the work that I can include some of these practices that I have, whether it relates to inclusive design or even improving the current product or system or service that my client provides, or more often than not, what I'm starting to do is, again, assemble like a point of view for that idea, and then create space for collaboration with my client. And we do a whiteboarding session in a similar fashion. But I find that while working with clients, I spend a little bit of time educating them on the process for ideation, for creativity, and for actually, how do we develop solutions that are business focused?
No, I love that. That's awesome. Mary, I think we have time for one more question, and then we can go ahead and introduce our next panelist.
Sure. We actually have a question from the audience.
Hey.
So Quentin, Sandra asks, I'm interested in applying this functional inclusion to healthcare. What do you see as challenges in applying it in healthcare delivery?
It depends on what aspects. So I think the challenge is healthcare as a system is very complex. I have not done a lot of work in the healthcare space, but really understanding the business case for it, or the customer journey for healthcare, right? Depending on if you're talking about the providers, or you're talking about the actual patients, or you're talking about the facilities, wherever you're identifying the opportunity, really I think the challenge is really creating a focused solution that drives some sort of business value. And I know healthcare, depending on who you talk to, it might be a public sector problem, it might be a private sector problem. It's just very complex. So I'd say, just really making sure that you have a really strong point of view of where you want to impact it, I think is the first start.
Great. Okay.
So I think we can go ahead and introduce our next speaker. I actually don't see him here yet, so we'll give him a few minutes to arrive, or a couple of minutes. We'll introduce him and then move on from there.
Okay. So it's my honor to introduce everyone to Dr. Elias Carianis, Professor of Science, Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, as well as co-founder and co-director of the Global and Entrepreneurial Finance Research Institute and director of the European Union Research Center at the School of Business of George Washington University. In addition to these positions, he has published more than 60 books to date on a variety of topics, including science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and several more projects in the upcoming future. He is a consultant for a variety of technology-driven organizations in both the government and the private sector, including the World Bank, the European Commission, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and many others. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Carayannis, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Mary. He's here. He just needs to unmute his phone and microphone, but he's in the panelists here, just to let you know.
Okay.
Elias, if you want to unmute. Okay, he's almost there. We're doing it. But Quentin, as soon as you, I want to just say thank you very much for it. Well, the question I wanted to ask you that stuck in my mind is how you bring in the human element to all the work you do. That's the thing that kind of captures me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something actually that John made a primary focus in my job. And when I say John Maida, my boss, John Maida, who hired me at Publicis Sapient when he was constructing his global team, like the human quality comes from, I think, one is just how I am in terms of like the way my storytelling is very emotive. It's very connected to the actual issues that people face. I think I'd say my it's interesting. It's just even the way I think about how I solve problems for my clients. I'm solving problems not just for a business in abstract. I'm solving it for the people that operate within that business, that the people that they are trying to serve with their products or services. And so I think that orientation just comes from really my love for community and love for the intersectionality of like community and business, or even community and impact.
Great, thank you, Quentin. Elias, are you there? Do you have audio now?
Yeah, hi, I'm on. Hello, everybody. I'm here.
Wonderful.
Sorry about the background noise. I hope this is not too intrusive. So can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we got
Yes.
you. Thank you, Dr. Elias. You're good to go.
Yeah. Hey, Nate.
We have your slide up with your 4 points.
Okay, let me see if I can. Yeah. So you just wanted me to go ahead and talk to those points?
Yeah, you have we have about 7 minutes or so.
That's fine. Okay, look, so, and let me know if I'm outside, I have to wear a mask, and there is background noise. So unfortunately, we have to be patient. But I did try to summarize, based on the interactions we had earlier, some of the points that I thought would be pertinent. One is the what I call the M4 conundrum, the challenge and opportunity regarding metrics, measurements, monitoring, and management. So how you measure, how you interpret, assign values to the measurements, and of course, then how you make sense of all this, and you monitor changes. And this is where higher order learning and with AI modalities, in fact, deep learning may be of relevance here. And this is one way to establish the capacity to cope with challenging, complex situations, and also to try to anticipate disruptions like the pandemics and actually develop opportunities to prosper even from those. There are already examples emerging from specific sectors and niches where the pandemic, of course, has been in a tragic irony manner, has been a windfall. So the second point is about business model innovation, and in a way that actually emphasizes and builds on the capacity to remain robust, resilient, and remunerative, to allow to function, to allow to adapt and cope with even disruptive change, and allow for reasonable profit margins. And this is building on the prior, all points are building on the prior ones, and are constituting a synthesis for a good, if not best practice. The third point is about thinking beyond the box, in addition to and in synthesis and in complementarity with thinking inside and outside, because the beyond the box is about unleashing creativity and the capacity to develop new ways of operating, thinking, and functioning. And lastly, how you do all that and how you leverage the capacity and the creativity and the potential that we're discussing needs to be designed and implemented. I definitely like to use and consider design thinking modalities, but all that needs to be done in a P5 manner, meaning people, public, private, people, planet, partnerships. And this is really reflective of the philosophy of an operationalization framework that we've been using, which actually is called the quintuple innovation helix, which is really synthesizing the 5 pillars of the modern knowledge economies and societies, government, university, industry, but also civil society, and also the environment. So if we do things in a way that respects human rights, for that matter, and safeguards the environment, we'll actually be better off. This is what we call the triple top line and triple bottom line sustainability and optimal performance. Triple top line being about ethics, effectiveness, efficiency, and triple bottom line being about sustainable, financially, social, environmentally operations. So these are the points that I wanted to touch on, and simply hopefully make some sense, add some value to the discussions. Back to you, Nate.
No, yeah, thank you, Dr. Elias. This is, I think this is really applicable. And a question that I'd actually like to extend to both of you is that if you are in the, we've talked a lot about metrics and or you just mentioned metrics and evaluation. And Quentin, you also spoke about, this concept of of simply inclusive design. How are you actually measuring how inclusive that design actually is? Is it based purely on, I guess you could call it reach across different demographics? And how do you know which demographics are the right ones to go after based on a specific product?
Is this for me or for Quentin?
I think it's a joint question. So you may speak first if you'd like.
Quentin, you want to go ahead, or I can go?
I don't mind.
Okay. I think I don't have bandwidth here for a photo, but looking at your charming likeness, I'm older, so I'll just exercise the privilege of age, I guess. Okay. And I would just like to add, and look forward to your comments, of course. What I think is an important approach, I mentioned design thinking, which is a holistic, integrative approach, ensuring that you have functionality, feasibility, and profitability, and doing so in an agile manner. And this is how I would respond to Nate's question. And this is the agile methodology, one of best practice for project management, because this is what we're really talking about here in the end. So I would really implement and follow agile mindset and agile approach in a design thinking context to make sure that we do the M4 and we implement the BMI R3 and all the other stuff. So go ahead, Quentin.
Yeah, no, that was actually a really great response. To add to that, you know, depends on how you're measuring, what side of the brand experience you're measuring on. So I was talking about that marketing side and then the service or product side. Defining the KPIs for either one of those things really is dependent on whatever market research. So that design thinking that he was talking about, that design thinking process, and making sure that you're well aware of the types of problems that you're trying to solve, and then what you're trying to measure, and making sure that like you're defining those up front, and you're defining KPIs. For example, within the marketing perspective, if you identify that this group of this audience, for whatever reason, is not you know, hearing the message that you're trying to convey within the market, or if it's missing them completely, how do you tailor, you know, the message such that you can measure it? Say, okay, well, we have, you know, our goal, our key metric is like impressions, or our key metric is increase in click-through rate, right? And that's more so from the marketing perspective. But if we talk about product, right, if you've identified, for example, that the market, like I give you a great example, Zappos actually enabled their product and their service to provide folks who are differently abled the ability to buy one shoe within a pair. So they completely changed their operations to be inclusive to folks who might not have a need for two pairs of shoes, or two shoes within a pair. And so you can measure, you know, impact there by the number of sales. You know, you can measure that by, you know, even just how it connects to the marketing, right? Like the number of people who have visited your site and explored that particular option to buy, even if they haven't converted. So.
No, I love that practical example. I think that helps kind of contextualize what it is that you're actually saying. And I'm a strong advocate. So I think we're going to ask one more question, and then Mary, you can do the closing.
One quick, very quick question. Are these shoes like the $10,000 sneakers that the people are collecting?
No, actually. Oh, I mean, it's Zappos, so I'm sure there's a spectrum. But it's, you know, I think I presented like on one of my slides, there's like a $1 trillion market opportunity for those who are considered disabled, and really pinpointing how your business can kind of, if you're providing services that could be of use to someone who is disabled, you know, really trying to identify, one, how can it be of use? And you hit it right on the nose of just like, what are those design thinking principles that you're applying to really contextualize the problem, and then providing a solution that provides access to that group of people that you've identified.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, actually, Mary, you want to go ahead and ask the last question for us? I think for the sake of time.
Sure, definitely. So this is for both of you. Most of the contemporary media sources and general public's view is basically on all the negativities of COVID-19 and what it's taken from us as a society. But what do you see as some of the unique opportunities due to this abnormal environment?
I'll allow my elders to go first.
Okay, you want to go? I think, as I touched on this before, for some, this is a windfall. Obviously, those racing to develop a vaccine, but also there's a lot of entrepreneurial types and startups making masks, whether it's 3D printing or in whatever other way, and you know, these plastic face covers, and then of course cleansing gels. So there's all kinds of opportunities in that sense. I think, and this is a matter in the making, in my opinion, and I hope so too, the transportation, air transportation, and many other industries, services where the requirement for higher quality and efficacy in safety and also convenience will constitute our opportunities, and we will be the launching pad for new ideas and solutions. And I hope these are, many of these are in the making. I believe some of them I'm aware of. And so there are opportunities. It would be great if we collectively learn how to do this better and cheaper and faster and safer.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that point, and I love it, for, consultancy.
So go ahead, please.
Oh yeah, for consultancies that are that practice, technology consultancy or marketing consultancy, it's a great opportunity for them to expand their practices, because brands right now are looking to across the industries are looking to understand how to adapt their business to this time. And so, we at Publicis Sapient, for example, deal with digital business transformation. So there are a lot of businesses that had very disparate digital systems that were upgirding their organizations, or some just were non-existent. And so there's an opportunity to really kind of get them future ready, or what John would talk about, ready for the fourth industrial revolution, which is about artificial intelligence and its impact on our ability to create products and services and scale them across the world. So yeah, and I really love
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have time for more comment, and then we're gonna have to close up here.
Okay. I just wanted to refer people quickly also to a presentation I made yesterday for the GW conference going on regarding industry and society 5.0, the transition from industry 4.0 and the accelerated digital transformation supported by higher order learning and deep learning AI modalities. That in itself could be a great bridge, hopefully, to a better tomorrow. However, I also think we should keep in mind interactions and synergies and coexistence of low, medium, and high tech modalities and solutions and entrepreneurial opportunities. It's not everything is or should be about AI, hopefully. And as far as the telework and the other such modalities that are forced in a way upon us, again, that would be an opportunity to learn and hopefully develop better insights. But we should also make sure that our rights for work, for reasonable, to make a decent living and all that are also respected and maintained. And just one last comment, if you haven't already, for those voting, make sure you vote.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Elias. No, I appreciate, so Quentin, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you as well, Dr. Elias, for taking time out of your schedule to come and have us. I wanted to just say thank you all for your questions and your comments. I know that there are some that we didn't get a chance to answer, but I think that this panel has been really tremendous. So I just want to thank everybody who's been involved. And
let's use email or some type of chat approach, Nate, if there are questions unanswered, please.
Yeah, of course. We'll take some time to log those. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in, and we'll send out an email and try to get some responses back. But I just want to say thank you all for your attendance, and Dr. Terabishi, back to you.
Thank you,
Nate and
Mary,
Nate,
for a great job.
Nathan, Mary, wonderful job. We appreciate you for this wonderful session. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then our next session will start. So we'll end it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.